Mr. Balaji, namaskar.
Namaskar.
Namaskar stops me from wishing you good morning and you wishing me good evening.
That's the beauty about this greeting, right? It's
so nice.
Independent of time. It's time independent. Doesn't matter which time of the day you greet that person with namaskar or namaste. You don't have to resort to morning, evening, afternoon, night. It doesn't matter.
But you're there in Boston morning and me in Mumbai evening.
Yes.
You're ready for your breakfast. I'm ready for my dinner.
Oh yeah.
So nice of you to have, as a mentee to a mentor, help me out to understand and share this day with you.
I don't know why you keep saying that, Doc. You keep embarrassing me with that.
So today, the 20th of December, we have Deming in our mind.
Yeah.
And we talk about Deming more of remembering him today. Yeah. It makes it what, 121st year?
No.
If he was alive?
Yeah, but with that, I think we spoke in October about that, right? I think we met in October to speak about his 121st birth anniversary. But today it's been 28 years since he passed on.
28 years since, that's right.
Yeah, it'll be 28 years. In fact, in 2018, I was over here in America in Los Angeles because the W. Edwards Deming Institute incidentally was founded just a month before he passed away.
Mm-hmm.
He was never one who institutionalized his name or something, but at the insistence of his family, because I think they saw his deteriorating health and that he was hanging on to thread, so to say. So he conceded, and they created the Deming Institute, and he made it clear to them that it is a not-for-profit organization, and well, that's how it's been. So it's all voluntary. The whole thing is led by volunteers and things like that. And ever since his grandson has taken over as executive director, things have gone into a different plane altogether. It's not that nothing was happening before that. A lot of work was being done. They revamped. They originally started with, the 4-day original seminars of his recorded on video, along with a workbook, which they used to distribute. Then they reconstructed it for the modern world. I can't remember the exact date when they did that, but they turned it into a 2.5-day seminar with some new, inputs and some new exercises and group talks, etc., presentations. And now, of course, they're taking it to the next level, taking it online, called as Deming Next. So this is, so then there's a lot of work being done on that. And Kevin, that is Dr. Deming's grandson, has been working really hard at it. He's been really pushing and getting things done.
We talked a little more into details about Deming, but it is, I have to introduce my mentor. It was so nice that I'm doing this course, 12 Days to Deming, and beautifully developed by Henry Neave, and you have been of such a great help. And I have moved to day 3 in 4 months.
I love that.
It takes, I told you, that 12 days is very...
I know.
It looks 12 days, but it is not 12 days, I know.
No.
Okay, my mentor, Mr. Balaji S Reddie, the founder of Deming Forum of India, honorary member of Deming Alliance UK, advisory council member, and Edward Deming Institute USA, and a professor in operations management. Balaji, your lifetime dedication to Deming, the entire forum that you have made, that was in the year 1999, right, sir?
That's when I established it. Yes.
So let's talk about it. And you know what, I like this. you have always said, whenever you refer to Deming, on your posts, I came in contact with you maybe around 8 months to 6 months to 8 months. But when I saw all your posts and I said that, why does Balaji Reddy say the world lives better for your contribution? So we would like to hear more of what these words mean with reference to Dr. Deming. So I'm just going to stop this and let's hear from you, sir.
Yeah, sure. I just want to make one thing clear. Along with W. Edwards Deming, I've always held in high esteem also Dr. Juran. But I mean, it's just a personal choice that my inclination is towards Deming.
And
right?
Juran's birthday is on 24th December, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
So whenever because I remember I was pulled up by someone senior on LinkedIn, that why do you keep saying, I said, but that's our way of expressing, our respects for people gone by. And we in India have that, we have that. It's inbuilt in us that we do this. So even for Dr. Juran, I write almost something similar.
Yes,
right,
you
on
do.
his
Yes, you do.
Yes, on his birthday as well as the time he passed away. So these are sort of sacred dates for me, and we do need to remember. I mean, these are people because of whom the whole profession exists, right? The quality management, and call it what you will. All right, and I think we should always acknowledge what they did. There were many others, I know that, all right, but these are the ones who had a personal influence on me personally, all right, and. After two, like I said, people always get into this stupid thing of Deming versus Juran. I think it's silly. We are too small to even discuss all this. I think instead of discussing who's better, what is better, let's implement what they had, to make this world a better place. Let's put into action.
Balaji sir, while I was going through this 2 days and there's cross references to outer crisis and new economic, Deming himself very often gives reference to Juran.
Oh, yeah, he does. Yeah. In fact, I think if you go through his book, you'll find more footnotes and references than anybody else have seen, even if the small sentence that this was heard at a seminar by Mr. So-and-so. I mean, if he could remember the name, he would actually write that in. So I wonder where people say that he's to copy or something. He never said that he invented anything on his own. He always said that maybe he cast some ideas in a business context, which is nice, Like some of the ideas have been around for a long time. I'll give you an example of what I'm trying to say here. Somebody once came and told me, Henry Ford said, quality means doing the right thing when nobody's looking. Well, he didn't say that per se. He was quoting, or he was, he adapted a statement from the Bible, which says integrity is doing the right thing when nobody's looking. Hmm. And so do you attribute that to Henry Ford, or do you say that this came from the Bible? So similarly, there are a lot of ideas which were rattling about for a long time, but casting them into a business context and, some values of life and things like this, I'm definitely sure that, he gave that, at least he gave that slant and gave people a good way of thinking that if we see something good around, that you can always quote it in a different sense. So for example, the thing that you picked up, if you remember, about the system, right? And we said interdependencies, and he just said that he gave the example of the organs of the human body. In fact, I think we picked it up from there, if you remember one of our conversations. Yeah. And you wrote back to me immediately. In fact, I think you sent me a snapshot from the book and said, hey, here's where it is, and the interdependent thing. Yeah. So similarly, I don't know. I mean, I found that was something that I learned by reading Deming. One was to always give credit, to people from whom you took ideas and things like this, and learning how to adapt and adopt ideas into your frame of reference. I found that unique, to be quite honest. Whether it was profound knowledge or the 14 points, or whatever he wrote in his book, I find it kind of timeless. That's my personal opinion. And that's what I see. I think one of his greatest contributions is leaving behind a legacy of thinkers, right? He wants people to think, and I hope that continues, that whoever and people reading it would be impacted. I can give you an example. Briefly, I was contacted by this young gentleman from Pakistan who wanted to do something similar in Pakistan with Deming, maybe set up a small Deming body of his own. For some reason, we lost contact. But when he connected with me, and he was a certified Six Sigma black belt, and he runs a construction company. So he was doing his work, and then suddenly I get this note from him that I'd like to speak to you and all. And then we had a Zoom call. And on the Zoom call, he said that I was implementing everything from, the statistical stuff. And he said, but I found something missing and I was hitting a wall and I didn't know what to do. And he said, I came across a quote by Deming about something about, joy and workmanship and all. He said, that struck a chord with me. So I ordered the book Out of the Crisis. And then he said, when I started reading it, it's like this man was reading my mind. Wow. And he said that I kind of connected. So that's exactly what happened with me. When I was reading, when I read Out of the Crisis for the first time, I couldn't believe what I was reading. It made a lot of sense to me. A lot of the stuff that happened to me, in the years gone by, I mean, I was not very experienced, but I could connect right away. It was scary at times, that he was actually telling me things or answering my questions, which were going about, like I said, in my head for a long time. And that's one of the things I think is one of his contributions, that he never gave answers, perhaps. He asked questions, and he asked the correct questions. He made you think, and he wanted you to think. Some people, perhaps couldn't digest that and interpreted that as being impertinent. That's sad. I don't think it was ever the case.
Because I read, and we talked about it also, sir, that he said there's nothing like step 1, step 2, step 3. There's nothing called a method. Ask why Deming said that. Ask why.
Right.
Then when he goes into the people part of it, and when he said respect for people, and he said they are, he was so much into people, and he credited them by saying that they're willing workers. They said they're willing workers. And somewhere down he says, when you tell them what to do, you please tell them why to do. And I heard one of the video in which he says, if you want me to clean the table, tell me why. Are you going to make something to the effect? Are you going to make a chemical thing? I saw that.
Perfect. He said that you have to explain. That's point number 6, right? Not just telling a person a training, which he said that training methods, he said, are so antiquated, not in the technological sense, but we still write a standard operating procedure in terms of how to do something, but we do not say why we're doing something. And more importantly, who's getting impacted by that, and maybe talking to that person and trying to find out whether what actions you're taking is fulfilling that need to a certain extent. So I believe that kind of thinking it should be prevalent everywhere. People should naturally start thinking about, okay, why am I doing this? And who's going to benefit? And should I talk to those people? Right? And see if I'm targeting someone, whatever action I'm taking, then go talk to that person. Right. And he said, ask the correct questions. What do you need? What do you want? And same with running a company, an organization, maybe, and whether it's for profit or not for profit, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You need to know why.
Balaji, so when you talk about this, I remember somewhere I heard about Deming saying about education. By saying education, he says, in whatever field of your choice, there is a concept of joy for work. So pick up anything. Right. He said, whether it is music, painting, whatever it is, just pick it up. Education, keep the mind occupied. There's no fear of work. This all have been said. Yes, there are 14 points, but you can't isolate each point by saying that this is that. Each of them are interlinked. I mean,
that's right. They're a system.
You are an authority on that. I am only clarifying as a mentee to a mentor. You have to tell me.
No, that's absolutely right. Once he was asked this question, that where do we start with your 14 points, which are most important, which are, how do you arrange them in an order of importance? He said, importance, all of them. And he said, where do we start then? He said, all of them. You can start with all of them simultaneously. So it was difficult for people to digest, like I said, because they wanted methods, and they still want methods. I've seen that around. I understand that there's something called as a low-hanging fruit. I was consulting with this company. I still am consulting with this company in Bangalore. For whatever reason, I've not spoken to them about publicly disclosing. So I'm not taking their name. Next time, I'll definitely talk to that gentleman, and perhaps we could. I asked him. I said that, have you benefited from our interactions and all? Because it had been more than a year that we were interacting when the pandemic struck, and he said yes. He said initially I was a little impatient, but I realized that this takes a long time. And he said that that's one of the things I liked about this. He said, because I've consulted with many top consulting bodies in India, some very famous ones. I'm not naming them. But he said that they gave me the low-hanging fruit, which is also important, the immediate benefits. Yeah. Suddenly there's cost reduction, but he said there was no sustenance, there was no sustenance to that. And he said somewhere the link was missing. And I realized what it was when we started talking, and I found that there was this twist. So he said, I'd like to go back and do those things all over again. Now that's the idea, that go back and do it with a bit of thought rather than just following some method for the heck of it. That I think was one of the biggest changes. So when you say that short term, well, I do believe that, people do need to see results and all that. That's fine, to get the low hanging fruit. That's also important. I understand that. So when I start consulting with someone, I talk to someone, I say, get ready for the long haul. Don't expect results right away. It's going to take time. But if you want the low hanging fruit and all that, I don't mind if you want to go to someone else, because I'm not built in that mode. Even when I implemented this in my company, of course, I was extremely lucky to have a very receptive and a great boss, who himself was a great Juran follower. So he never, just because I was inclined towards Deming, he never ridiculed me or anything. We worked together on this. And in fact, he gave me a free hand, absolute free hand. In fact, I always thought that he was more like Deming. He used to, for anything, like suppose, why do you want to do that? Why do you want to read this book? I remember he had a fantastic library. And I said that, may I borrow this book? Why? What is it you're looking at? What's your purpose? Tell me what's the reason behind this? And that's when he made me think a lot. He said, can you say this in one sentence? What have you learned about Deming? Say it in one sentence. What do you understand by Juran? Say it in one sentence. So that was his way of, and he never gave me, methods or something, but they're things I picked up from him. And so I never faced the kind of stuff that normally people talk about in a company, that my top management is not interested. In fact, it was quite the other way around. My top management was interested. So he gave me a free hand.
Yeah, Balaji said where I am coming from is that, I like the way you said the short term. Yes, now if you're bleeding, okay, the first thing that you do is to stop the bleeding, right? Yeah. And then you can go for your CT scan, your MRI, you can go whatever it is. But then if you don't stop your bleeding, then you're doing a postmortem on a dead body.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. That's true. There's no doubt about that. But the point is, then people get used to only that. I understand what you're saying.
Yes.
That, when you stop the bleeding, yes, but now we sit down and say, why did the bleeding happen? But I want to ask you a question. Dr. M. Does anybody really think like that?
No, they look at, everything is linked with the tenure of the CEO or the top management, or, the profit of the organization. And, I have been caught very often by saying that opposite of vision is not blindness, it is myopia, but that is the reality. And how we are going to break it, as a matter of fact, I'll read out something from, I always keep this with me. Let me catch hold of this.
Oh my God, this is even worse than my book. My copy.
No.
If I show you, I'm not. It's back in Pune, my copy.
Yeah.
But In my copy, it doesn't have post-it notes, but it has a lot of penciled
it is an
marks
out
on
of
it.
crisis, so that
Yeah.
I don't go
I
wrong.
can see that.
Yeah. So since we are on the subject, doesn't matter if I take time. It's my podcast, and I'm talking to my winter, so I can always take a little bit of liberty. Where was that I read? Just give me a second. I'll get it. Oh, that was, she had written on that. That's because what happens with Henry Neave's book is, he moves from new economics to out of crisis. And so, so forgive me for this. So I want to read out because it's relevant, and I can tell you, I actually clipped it and I said, let me ask him. So I'm opening my my WhatsApp, and I'll tell you what it is. Sorry for taking so much of time, but
no, just fine.
Okay, which book is it? One of these books. This is Why Deming, Why Now More Than Ever. This is by Kelly L. Allen.
That's New Economics, yeah.
Okay. Now this is the question, Dr. Deming. How many organizations are using your methods? Okay, Dr. Deming, how many organizations are using your methods 100% today? Deming said none.
None, correct.
The second question Kelly asked was, but Dr. Deming, if no organization is using your methods 100% today, how many will be using your methods in 100 years? Deming replied over here, all that survive.
Okay, this was a conversation. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, this is a conversation between Peter Scholtes. Correct. I'll tell you the background.
Yeah.
You see, Kelly Allen is happened to be a very, very close associate and assistant to Peter Scholtes. Peter Scholtes, author of the book The Leader's Handbook and the Team Handbook, right? So Peter Scholtes, apparently, this was in a private conversation with them that this took place. So I don't know if there's ever recorded or something. So of course we have to take Peter Scholtes' word as final, because he would not, for what he was known, he would not.
Sweetheart. I like the way he presents things with a sense of humor. My God.
Yeah. No, he would not lie about things like this, and he did. Apparently, he said that. So yeah, so it's something. I think the crux of the whole thing is something for the long haul, like you said. But but talking about that, like I said, only getting lost in the short-term thing can be dangerous. I've had two experiences which I want to narrate here, and perhaps you could also connect with this. Some years ago, I was contacted by a very, very famous earth-moving equipment manufacturer. You can guess. I won't tell the name. And they contacted me for a training program. The problem was that they were having the same issues that quality circles and Kaizen, but it was not sustaining. So they said they wanted something deeper. And then one of those guys from that company heard me speak somewhere. Or I think we used to have programs for Deming's birth anniversary and the passing away, at the Indian Institution for Production Engineers. So at that time, I think he had come. He was one of the members there. Then he called me aside and said, could you come to my company to give a presentation on all this, what you spoke today? I spoke on profound knowledge, basically. And he said, I think this is going to make a difference in my company. So I said, what do you do? And then he said, we have quality circles. We have, the Kaizen thing and all going, but I want something deeper. I said, I'm absolutely game. So we arranged for it. Now, the problem was he had his immediate boss. Okay. And that immediate boss put a span in the works and said, no, I want to see what this person is going to present. So he told him that, look, I mean, it's not what you think it is. No, I want to see. It's on quality, right? I want to see it because I'm in charge of quality, etc. So he got to me. He got to me and said, got back to me rather, and said, Mr. Reddie, could you send me your presentations? And I said, you've seen my slides. I have nothing in the slides. They're just bullet points in it. All right. So then he said, nobody wants to see it. I said, I'm sorry, I can't give that. Nobody wants to know and all that. What exactly you're going to teach? I said, you know, right? He said, sir, I've got tired of explaining to him. Could you send something? I want to just keep him quiet because he's been bugging me a lot. That what is he going to teach? What is he going to teach? So then I said, what are you going to give him? He said, I just sending him a set of slides of, guess what? Fishbone diagram, Pareto graph, check sheet, the 7 quality tools, the PD essay, blah, blah, blah. You understand? And he sent him all those slides. And that guy wrote back to him, exactly. This is what I like. Correct. Tell him to come and give the presentation. Now, when I landed up at the company, I was taken to meet him. The moment he met me, yes, I'm very happy to meet. This is what I wanted, these tools and all that. These people need to learn about these tools. And the way he spoke was, I know everything about these tools and quality is with me, but other people in the company don't. And the moment I hear that, I know that the reverse is true, all right? That he knows nothing about quality. He knows diddly swat about quality. But the people down the line, they are trying to explain to him that there's something going wrong. He doesn't want to listen. And so I said, so you'll be there for the program? Yes, I'll come. You know what happened, Dr. Mohan? He never turned up for the program.
Mm.
He didn't, because he thought I was going to be lecturing on these things. And the people, that means my target audience was missing. He was missing.
Mm.
All other managers were there and they walked away. They said, this has been really eye-opening and we'll definitely try to do something. But do you think anything really happened in that company? If the main guy was not there listening to all this, all that he thought that this was a bunch of tools and Deming is a bunch of tools and Deming's control chart and PDSA and PDCA, whatever. Well, then you're doomed. You're doomed. You're doomed to disaster.
Balaji,
So that's
just to interview. Have you ever noticed that if he was present and you were talking, I promise you, he would stand up 10 times to put his version and will not allow you to finish your version of it. I've gone through that. And I had to request him, I had to take a tea break and I said, sir, when I am presenting, let me present, please. You're fortunate he was not present.
Yeah, I know. So anyway,
I
so that was
understand
one.
what you're saying. I mean,
yeah. And then just recently this happened again. Just before I was leaving to come to America, suddenly I got an email out of the blue, someone who connected through LinkedIn, and then he sent me a note and said that I'm in this automotive company, again, a famous one. Again, I'm not quoting names. I don't want to spoil anybody. I don't believe that. I believe that there's some good people there also,
yep.
Right, in every company. So painting them with the same brushes is unfair. So anyway, so this happened again, and he said that what are your charges? What do you teach and all that? And I said, this is what I do. So he said, okay, I'll get back to you. And then he got back and said, yes, I've cleared everything. We're having a quality week thing. So you'll be a part of it. And you're going to be lecturing for 3 hours and all that. I said, great. And he said, my top management will also be there. I said, absolutely great. Around 3-4 days before the scheduled program, he sent me a mail. I'm sorry to say, we've got off the whole thing. Because there are more important things lined up, like trying to meet our quarterly targets. What do you say to that?
I love it because I burned my 10 toes, 8 fingers, and 2 thumbs in the last 20 years, hearing the same thing.
So when I see these things, then I say, yes, the low-hanging fruit is important, but it's not the only thing, Unfortunately, like what you said, it is important, but people get lost in that. And that's where I think the change should happen.
Yeah.
Yes, we do want to stop the bleeding, but we also want to find out why it happened. And we want to fix it once and for all, We don't want to go back. Like, I think it was Jim McIngvale, called as Mac. You'll read about him on day 6 in Deming's, Henry Neave's course. He said that when we started implementing or bringing to force what Deming's ideas were, there were new problems. And he said, at least the same old problems were not there, because we had no answers to the previous, but with the new things, we came up with new ideas. And that's what, when you start making those changes, at least they're not the same old problems you're dealing with, there's something new and something different and perhaps a little more challenging. I think just yesterday, right, in that conversation, which I had with the gentleman Shrikant on LinkedIn, where about the common cause, special cause thing. And I said that's what Yeah, that's what brings you to work every day, right? Isn't it exciting when you have something to look forward to, rather than coming to work and saying, "Are we, what do I do today?" Whereas,
It took me, we love cricket, and the way the googlies that you throw at me, and I did not know. Then I read, and it said, I'm not getting into that because I went
yeah, I know.
read and read and read and read, and then I said, what is this economics that he's talking about? I can't find any economics. And then I went through it, and then ultimately I got it right, that which one do you give preference to? Whether it is the common causes, can the common causes be the, look, even after reading so much, I get confused between, not confused, actually, the terminologies, because,
Yeah,
the sporadic causes, common causes, and
yeah. For the record, let me just Walter Schuhart's terms were random cause and assignable cause.
Correct.
Right. So, and Deming replaced them with common and special.
Yes.
Dr. Juran had his own terms, chronic and sporadic.
Yeah.
But just to tell you that in his handbook, in Dr. Juran's handbook, he makes it clear that for the rest of the handbook and everywhere, we shall use Deming's terms, common and special cause.
And I read even Deming acknowledged Schuhart by saying that I am changing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
He kept saying that the term, the term is not important, the concept.
Yes. That's what I wanted to bring out. The reverence, the respect that he had for it.
Yeah. Apparently, this is what, Henry Neave and another giant, David Carriage, he's no more, said this. They said that when he spoke of Schuhart, his eyes used to change. He used to literally sit up in his place, and he spoke with a lot of reverence when he even remembered him or spoke of him or, referred to him. That it was innate in him that he had to do that, which is something amazing.
Yeah, what the point that I'm coming to say, and I was reading this, and yes, while talking to you, I'm a little careful whether I'm using the same terminology. So, what Deming said of fear, there's a little bit of fear in me whether I'm saying the right thing. So I get a little confused. You're a mentor, I get a little confused. So, but then I understand what you're saying. But what I'm saying is today that we are referring to Deming in the memory of. And the quote that you always say, he always respected his mentor. And he said he was lucky to have met him. I read somewhere that,
Yes.
Yeah. So it's his greatness that two things, I mean, since you referred it and since we're talking about it, A, Deming's respect for Schuhart and Deming's acknowledged for Juran. Now,
oh yeah,
it's so amazing. That is the greatness in Deming, the way I see it. If you can acknowledge.
No, not only Juran, he also quoted Feigenbaum in his book. He quoted Crosby in his book. Some people say that he was not in agreement with Crosby. Some things perhaps, but he knew that he was an evangelist. They had a lot of things in common. That. So I don't think he had anything against anybody. I doubt it. And those maybe one or two points or something like this, but I would think you would just dismiss the whole thing as silly. And anyway, that's a different point altogether. I don't want to get into that. So
that's fine. I mean, today is the day that we remember, and I come back to what you always write. That world. Can you repeat that word? The world.
Yeah, the world lives better for your contributions.
Yeah. And I have still to learn a lot more about his contribution. I can't even say a foggy picture. Okay. Before I started this course, I used to quote left, right, and center Deming. Okay. Now I feel so foolish that I didn't even know what context I was talking. Now when I read it, I get the context. In the sense, oh my God, why did it do that? I mean, and that's the time that sometimes I see certain codes being put up, And then I said, does the
Yeah,
gentleman really understand what he's quoting? Because I never understood
correct.
what I quoted.
Yeah. So people quote them and they quote it sometimes out of context, and they say, what does it even mean? It sounds rubbish, and things like, well, it's okay, it takes time. Uh, that's why when I see some quotes and people put up and say, Deming said this, comment please. This is my interpretation. That's not how you do it. You got to see the whole context in which,
Yeah.
because you would summarize the whole thing in a sentence and then you take that. So for example, the thing about if I were to reduce my words for managers, it would be reduce variation. And so when this happened in Britain, apparently, in England. And when around a month or so later, when I think it was David Kerridge who said, yeah, but he said, well, reduce variance. I never said that. When did I say that? So he said, but you said it. You said it in the seminar when that lady said, he said, it must have been a contextual answer. I never said that. I didn't mean that you only reduce variation. And that's why the quote in his thing is understanding variation.
Understand
Reducing
variation.
variation, yeah, and reducing variation that's harmful, etc. But that takes time to figure out, right? And of course, that reduce, and that's why then people misinterpreted that as reduce variety and things like that. So he did say that perhaps in a context, but people started using it just about everywhere. And so they said it's variety. The variety is different, variation is different. So the way I look at it is, the difference between what is and what should be, that variation should be as less, that gap should be as less as possible, no matter what you're doing. But I don't think you'll see. So this is where I don't like some people misquoting and selectively quoting and, making a mess of things.
Right.
Anyway.
So, Mr. Balaji in Boston and me in Mumbai.
Yes.
What does Deming mean to you, Mr. Balaji?
Well, I just said that that he put into place a lot of things which there were question marks in my head, made me not only look at what I was doing with a lot of purpose, but I think generally added a lot of value. Yes, the methods and all that were not there, but then that again was a challenge. And in a sense that you come up with your own methods, or maybe if someone prescribes certain methods, then you know why you're doing that, and it starts making more sense. So I think that contribution which he's made will stay with me. But one of the things that the spark that got ignited, and I think that I would the person who made that happen and fanned the fire, Henry Neave, definitely, who did that with me. So, but yes, the thought process definitely would go back to Deming and reading his books again and again. They are a revelation. I find them thought-provoking sentences. He chose his words very carefully. So yes, when I introduce this to young, eager minds, this is what I would like to leave behind.
Promise you, my mentor. Young mind is here. Don't go by my chronological age. You won't know my chronological age because I beat you at it, mentor. You can't even find out. I don't even have a single gray hair. Okay, on a serious note, your final words on Deming. I know you have said that, but the final words, and then I stop recording.
Yeah, I would say it's about joy in ownership through joy in work. The people should feel joy in owning what we give to them, what we offer to them as an organization. If it's a service, they should feel the joy in being served, and people should enjoy doing that, the whole act of doing it. I think that's what sums up what he had in mind. So that's the catchphrase of the Deming Institute, which I think sums it up, that enriching society through the Deming philosophy. So I think I'd leave it at that.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Joy.
Thank you very much, and thank you a lot. And see you soon in Bombay.
Sure, I'll be there.
Well, I'm going to come to Boston and pick up and bring you over here because I can't have a mentor over there, and you're just 2 hours from here, so I can always catch you, but I can't fly over to Boston unless, of course, you take me there. Okay. Have a good time and come back soon. Okay. And my regards to your family.
Yes, and thank you so much.
Great, sir. See you.
Right.
Nice to see you. Take care.